Welcome to this Arnold Culliford knitwear tutorial on Intarsia joins. This tutorial is part of our Little Lessons series of tutorials on Intarsia that are going to give you all the skills to master the projects in Modern Daily Knitting Field Guide number 16, Painterly. This lovely field guide is filled with designs from the master of colourwork, Kaffe Fassett, and I'm going to help you to build up your Intarsia skills so that you feel you can tackle any of those projects with complete confidence. So just briefly to explain what Intarsia is. Intarsia is the knitting technique that you use when the blocks of colour that you're working with are located in discrete clumps, so they're not carried right the way across the row. So in stranded colour work, you'd use repeating motifs where the colours are worked all the way across the row, and you may be working with 2 or sometimes 3 colours in a row. But in Intarsia, the colours are located in chunks. So we've got the orange at the end here, and then we've got some dark green in the middle, and then a little section of grey and some bright green at the end. And if we look at the back of the work, we can see that the colours aren't carried across, but instead they're joined when you change from one colour to the next. And this short video is just going to show you how to work that join. I think that this Cityscape Scarf is a great project to start with because each of the colour joins happens in a vertical line. So you are always working the same colour stitches right on top of each other, and your yarn will always be exactly where you need it to be. So I'm using circular needles, but you can totally work on straights as well. This is just my preference. And I'm also holding the yarn in my right hand, but again, this is worked in exactly the same way, even if you hold your yarn on the left or use a different technique. So I'm going to work the last 3 dark green stitches here. And now I've come to the first pale grey stitch, and I'm going to move the yarn in an anti-clockwise direction. So the old yarn is going over and the new yarn is coming up under. And that is all there is to it to make the twist. So we then knit this first pale grey stitch with the pale grey yarn, and we can carry on until we get to the next join, and I'll show you again how easy that was to do. So here we are, we've got one more pale grey stitch and then we need to go on to the bright green. So we're going to knit the pale grey stitch, and then the pale grey yarn goes in an anti-clockwise direction over the new green yarn, which then comes up in that same anti-clockwise movement. And then we're going to knit the next stitch in the green yarn. And it's that turning of the yarns and putting the old one over the new one that joins those patches of colour together and makes that nice looped join down the back of the work. You'll be delighted to know that the wrong side rows are worked in exactly the same way. So we're purling along in our bright green yarn. We've worked the last stitch in the green, and so we now go anti-clockwise, old over new, and pick up the pale grey from underneath, and again it moves in that anti-clockwise direction, and we work the first stitch in the pale grey. Sometimes worth giving a bit of a tug on the second stitch after the join, because that helps to keep everything neat, and you can see we've got a really nice looped yarns down there where they join from one colour to the next. Working along to the next one. Let's move the green yarn out of the way. Okay, there's our last pale grey yarn, anti-clockwise over, dark green comes up from underneath. Oops. Keeping the yarns obviously on the working side, so we're purling so the yarns are towards us, so that pale grey yarn needs to stay on that side. And then into the first dark green stitch and carry on along the row. And you should be able to see again that the yarns are just neatly looped around each other. And that's all there is to it. You move your yarns in an anti-clockwise direction, putting the old over the new, and that creates that nice looped join between each of the patches of colour and keeps your work looking super duper neat. There are a few more videos in this series to come, so do check out the links in the notes on this video. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, then please do click the round button down here to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you know when the next video is released. And there's a link up top here to take you to our website where you'll find all sorts of books and yarns to help you learn new techniques. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye bye.